Okay, and that's it. Those are my prophecies for the Kill Team Manual. I'd love to hear yours. Oh, that's the kind of thing I say at the end that I then cut to put at the beginning, isn't it? Yeah, so what do you guys think they are going to do with the Kill Team Manual? Which units do you think they're going to change the points cost of? Watch the rest of the video, if I've put this at the start, to find out what I think. Hello everybody, Glass Half Dead here. In the background, this way, we see the Kill Team Manual. You already know about it. I don't need to read it. This is something I should have covered yesterday. What can you do? Long story short, they say that there are going to be points updates. Today, we are going to speculate. And when I say speculate, I mean wildly guess. But I've probably titled this video something like Predictions for the Kill Team Annual. I genuinely don't know what to expect. It's our first annual. So what could it be? You know, is when they say points updates, do they just mean the updates they already printed in the White Dwarf, so like the Vanguard stuff, they're going to just update those points? I don't know. However, let's assume we're going to get some really exciting and interesting ones. What made me think of this was the next article, which was about the 40k chapter approved, where they say that they're tweaking some points specifically for Grey Knights, where they say a regular strike squad guy is going down to 17 points. I believe they were 19 originally, is that right? Ish. Maybe, no, they were like 21. They were huge. This is a huge points reduction for Grey Knights in big 40k. It's very exciting for them, I'm sure. Let's talk about what we can... okay, so we're done with the background. We don't need this anymore. So let's talk about what we might expect in Kill Team. I've written it all down because I knew there was no way I was going to remember any of this. So, first things first, and I think this was pretty much agreed on. Drones. Tau drones. They need to go up in points, right? I think we can all agree that the ability to potentially get 2 injury rolls on a single model, really big. And they have fly, so they can just fall back and still shoot. And they have fly, so they can ignore most movement and terrain. 7 points is absolutely nuts for what a Tau drone... Oh, sorry, and Savior Protocols. They do everything. It's crazy. What have I actually written here? So, right, you can't look at a Tau drone in a vacuum. You can't just say, okay, well, it needs to go up to 11 points. Something, you know, that's a made-up number. I haven't fully thought through what it should be. But we can't just do that, because you've got to think, maybe you should put the Tau drone to, 8 or 9. 9 seems possible, right? But then you also increase the cost of a rail rifle by 1 or 2. You can't just look at a drone. You've got to look at what else is in the team. Obviously, at the same time, there's no need to nerf all Pathfinders. Because what a lot of people take issue with is drone spam's an issue, but generally they're hitting on 6s. So you want them to have less of that, but they are taking their big guns. And the fact that they have big guns that can kill pretty much anything in the game, plus a lot of strength 5 shots plinking around, doing a lot of damage through weight of fire, you've got to stop both things. But Pathfinders are fine. There's nothing wrong with Pathfinder. In fact, Pathfinders, and I realise this entire video might just turn into a Tau rant, but Pathfinders need a buff. So you see, this is why it's not a prediction. I don't think they're going to do this. But marker lights need to be fixed. Yeah. Right? So I think they should also... And again, this isn't a prediction because they are 100% not going to do this, because I'm pretty sure they are bound by 40k rules on this one. But I genuinely think that Pathfinder should be able to fire a marker light, and marker light should become Assault 1, and you can fire both their guns, marker light and their pulse carbine. Then you might actually see just generic, not rail rifle sniper gunners Pathfinders. I think that'd be really, like, Tau should probably have that. And so if you kind of look at that entire... So I haven't done the math, guys. I haven't done the maths. I don't know how that would look if you changed all of that. If you made drones 11 points or 9 points, and then you increased rail rifles to 2, but you also buffed marker lights. I don't know what it would do to the army. It would be huge changes. So I'm just saying all of those are possible. They are all things that they should consider. Yeah, okay. I think this is a nice easy one as well. AdMech, Skitarii Rangers should only be 8 points. Knock them down. They don't need to be 9 points. Firstly, Vanguard have an extra ability where if they are within 1 inch of a model, that model receives -1 toughness. That's amazing. And their gun is better. So, why is their gun better? So obviously it's only a strength 3, but you're firing 3 shots. Whereas the other one is, and it's an assault weapon. Assault, of course, being huge in kill team. Whereas the Skitarii is a strength 4, rapid fire 1. So it's basically a bolter. The issue there is that, okay, so you can look at that and say, okay, well, actually the difference between 24 and 18 is pretty big. There's no doubt about that. But on a kill team board, it's significantly less than on a huge 40k 6x4, right? So taking that hit to your, basically, if your range is 18, you're going to be able to take a shot. You don't need that 24. Whereas in 40k, that extra 6 inches could be pretty useful. So I think taking ranges down to 8, I wouldn't say 7, that's probably too far, but 8, yes. And take down the cost of the galvanic, the transuranic arquebus. It's not competitive. Do something about it. Okay, here's a fun one. Gene Stealers. They should be 10 points. Boom. There you go. I don't even need to justify it. It's just not a prophecy. What's the word? I've said it like 5 times in the video already. Prediction. Same thing, actually, isn't it? It's just one has a bit more flair to it. Okay, this is now Kill Team Annual Prophecies. Cool. What have we got next? So I think they're going to change... I assume they are going to change regular tactical marines. They're going to lower their cost. I assume to be in line with 40k. But I don't know 40k well enough to know what they currently cost in 40k. So I suspect they're going to knock a point off. Yeah. I think knocking a point off a regular attack marine's fine. I wouldn't say they'd lower scouts, though. Just because if you lower scouts, you have the ability to add an extra man in a 100-point list to Astartes, and that actually could potentially completely change them. So probably don't want to do that. Then I've written a whole, 2 paragraphs about design decisions. I'll save that for another video. Plague Marines. They need to go down a point. Only the regular ones. The gunners can stay up. But nobody really takes just a regular bolter Plague Marine. And that's a bit, because you've got some really good options in there. You kind of need a bit of incentive to get those regular bolter dudes, I'd say. Oh, okay. I've put Lictor. So a Lictor, for those that don't know, is 25 points. Why? So this is, again, I've put a whole nother thing about design decisions and why you shouldn't lower the cost, but at the same time you should. So let's just say if the Lictor takes a reduction, I would not be surprised. However, I don't think it actually will. So we'll move on from that. But let's just say I've called it. You know what? Elites in general. Any elite model over 25 points should probably have its points reduced. They're just not being taken. If Games Workshop wants to say that 100 is competitive, that's where they want to focus the game, then they need to change something. Because nobody takes the big stuff. Right? And everybody says, oh, but the big stuff's really good for fun, narrative, fluffy games. But they're not competitive. And that's great, that's awesome. But you'd only need to edit points costs if you're looking at the competitive game. Otherwise, do whatever you want. Who cares? The only reason you edit these points costs is to make a more balanced, focused, competitive game. So we do need to look at it from that perspective. Nobody's taking them. Consider it. Another thing about elites, some of the weapons are just stupidly overcosted. I'm going to throw it out there, guys. The las cannon. What is it? 13 points. Nah. No one's taking that. A single shot weapon for 30, on a, what is it, a 30 point model plus 26 points? No. Come on. That's ridiculous. What are they smoking? Okay. Here's a potentially dodgy one. So, in line with the fact that they are lowering the cost of Grey Knights from, I believe their original was 21 points. Maybe it's 21 points plus Stormbolter, which is 2 points, I think. So they weren't cheap. And they've knocked them down to 17, including their gear, I believe. I think Grey Knights should become 16 points each. And that's them. So by taking Grey Knights down to 16 points, you can then fit 6 into 100 points. But proviso, you then need to bump the Justicar up to costing 20 points. But why? So the reason for that is because if you do that, then a 6-man team, which would be 5 normal dudes, plus 1 Justicar, will be exactly 100 points. Which means you couldn't give them any upgrades, okay? They'd all have either a sword or a halberd, plus their Stormbolter, and that's it. I think that would be the only way to balance them correctly. I don't think, if you could get that extra body in there, I don't think they should be able to, spam falchions or get a demon hammer in there or a gunner. That would be a huge trade-off. You'd really have to think about how you want to run your Grey Knights, right? But then, if you go to 125, that changes. You can get a 7th model in there, and you can basically kit out everybody. But there's no chance of an 8th model. But certainly, as Game for Workshop is only looking at 100 points, that's something definitely to consider. I think that's the way to go. You have the option of Grey Knights either having exactly 6 models at 100 points, nothing more, or 5 models and you can trick them out. Kroot, redo the faction. What the fuck were you thinking? Elicidian Starstriders. I think just remove the cap for Voidsman. Apart from that, I don't think they're too terrible. They've got a lot going for them, weirdly. I know that's not the most it's not the most, I can't even think of words, but a lot of people obviously think that they're quite weak. Just make them viable at 125, officially. That's all I'm saying. Oh, okay, so this is one that I don't know if they're due, but I think they might. This is one that I actually want to do for my own tournament regardless, which is remove the active list from 20 models to 15. It only affects super niche horde spammy armies. And, an instant thing that you might jump to there when thinking of, if you reduce how many models a horde can take, then it's not a horde and they can't do anything. It's like all of the factions that can horde properly swarm and horde, have large options that they can take. Just limit them to 15 models. I think that should be an official rule. Will GW put that in there? They might. Don't know. Let's see. Oh, and then I've put a bunch of stuff about... That's kind of another side there. I won't go into that. That's more about secondaries and all that jazz. I suppose another thing that people often think about when thinking about whether or not a faction is balanced is a number of specials you can take, especially for Death Guard, for example. You're limited to 2 fighters, for example, or 2 gunners, whatever it is. And some people think that if you could take more of them, that would make them a better faction. Now, whether or not that would make them a better faction or not, I don't think it would. I don't think that's their issue. But it's like, okay, that's a thought. It's a valid thought. I'm okay with those not being changed, just because ultimately Kill Team has been made to, in certain instances, follow Big 40k, so that if you have built up a kill team, whatever you've built up there should, even if incredibly unoptimized, be valid in Big 40k. So I'm okay with that, with those caps staying in place. And that's it. Those are my picks. I also think orcs are going to get hit. I think boys are going to go up maybe 8 points, 7 or 8. Yeah, I think boys are going to go up in cost. The thing is they're really good for 6 points. You know, they're T4. They get 3 attacks, and they can reroll charges. And they're now like, you know, if you take Evil Sons, they're like 7-inch move basic, and it's crazy. So I think boys are going to get nerfed. I don't know in what way. I'm guessing a 1 or 2 point cost increase. Okay, and that's it. Those are my prophecies for the Kill Team Annual. I'd love to hear yours. Oh, that's the kind of thing I say at the end that I then cut to put at the beginning, isn't it? Yeah, so what do you guys think they are going to do with the Kill Team Manual? Which units do you think they're going to change the points cost of? Watch the rest of the video, if I've put this at the start, to find out what I think. And now I've definitely cut this, so this is at the end again. Thanks very much for watching, guys. You know, please check out my Discord, my Patreon, my YouTube channel, which you're on. Leave a like, subscribe, a comment. Yeah, woo! Anyway, I hope you've had a good day, and I hope you continue to have a good day. Goodbye.